Once a year, the Pirelli World Challenge moves north of the border to the speedrome called Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. There, the performance is stunning and the lap speeds are downright hair-raising. It's time for GT Thunder to rumble through Ontario's cottage country.
Back in time to a truly old-school challenge of the highest order and one steeped in motorsports lore. Welcome to the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and Round 5 of the GT Sprint Championship. Hello all, I'm Greg Kramer, back with Calvin Fish for the coverage today. And Cal, when you ask any driver what they think of this place, the answer usually begins with a sharp intake of breath.
It certainly does, Greg, and for good reason. What a circuit it is. It provides an immense challenge for the drivers. It's crazy fast here. It's daunting. It's intimidating. And you really have to treat it with the utmost respect or it will bite you. But for a view from the driver's seat, let's ride along with Porsche factory driver Michael Christensen on the Porsche Track Preview.
Michael Christensen here with Allegra Motorsport, driving the Porsche 911 GT3R at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Coming up here into turn 1, it's downhill, right-hander, really difficult to balance out the car right. Down the crest, just try to keep the momentum through, a bit bumpy in the exit especially. Coming up to the next left-hander, coming up the hill, but then there's a quest just when you want to turn in, so quite a lot of downhill, and then you compress in the bottom. Just keep the momentum through there. Coming up to turn 3, also really difficult corner. It's mainly off camber throughout the corner, so quite slippery. But yeah, momentum is key. Going down to turn 4 here, downhill, you have got a lot of compression here. So keep the speed through and hard braking up the hill to turn 5A and B. Very important is to get on the power down the long straight here, but it's really difficult as it's bumpy and very technical part of the track. As you see, it's quite bumpy generally on the track, and yeah, you're fighting the steering wheel quite a lot. Coming up to turn 8, really fast turn-in point, just one gear down, a lot of speed into the corner, and you have a lot of grip in the exit of the corner, trying to line up for the next left and for the final corner too. We always try to prepare the next corner here in this section. That was one lap with Michael Christensen at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park.
Well, that is one stunning lap, and it is impressive. Let's take a look at our Porsche race analysis. The track itself, just under 2.5 miles, 10 turns, every one of them breathtaking. And Cal, today, sunny and warmer than it's been pretty much for this entire event. Does that mean it's a bit of a guess here for setups for these guys?
Oh, for sure. It's going to be a gamble, Greg. It's very different to the track we saw yesterday and a bit different to what we even saw in practice here on Friday when it was indeed dry. Today it's the traditional 50-minute sprint, single driver format, and these GT machines are super high-tech. They're high downforce race cars with power output in excess of 500 horsepower.
Look there for just a moment at Alvaro Parent. This is, I think, a hugely important race for him. One, in terms of confidence, two, in terms of just salvaging the season. A great story, and we're going to talk about it, of course, as we get into the CBS Sports Network part of the show. Once again, we're in a little pause there. We just want to remind you all, thank you so much for joining us here on our global web coverage. Great to have you with us, and every once in a while we are going to be pausing and laying out while we go to break for our CBS Sports Network show, listening to producers. Whenever we can, we will certainly come back with you and visit with you on the web stream. But this is an interesting event for both of those Bentleys, but in particular for Alvaro Parent. We'll be touching on that just a little bit. In yesterday's race, what a different set of circumstances, and they rolled the dice with a great strategy. We'll explain that to you, and we'll do so in just a minute here when we come back with our CBS Sports coverage. And with that, the stage is set. Let's get down to the front of the grid with the third member of our team, Pilar Lastra, for those special words.
Race fans, it is now time for the most anticipated command in the world of motorsports. To help us out with that today is Darlene Hargrove, mother of one of our very own drivers, Scott Hargrove.
Drivers, start your engines.
Oh, that is just an absolutely fabulous sound. I say it all the time, Calvin. You've got so many different brands, which means so many different engines and sounds, and all those instruments in the orchestra, when they come to life, makes a great symphony. So you can see our BMW M3 safety car leaves, and also the Chevrolet Camaro, pace car will be leading the field out here, and we are getting ready to go here. Let's take a look now at our Pirelli storylines. And Cal, I think it has to start with Bentley rebound, maybe.
Well, it's been a very tough start for our 2016 GT champion Alvaro Prent with 3 huge crashes early in the season. Another fresh car this weekend. He will start from pole with that strategy we'll get into yesterday in the race to get the fast lap. He'll start alongside his teammate Baptista.
And we have to talk about the Canadian connection. They've been impressive so far.
Well, fierce rivals on row 3 here today. It was the front row yesterday. Championship leader Scott Hargrove. We just heard from his mum there, and race 1 winner Daniel Morad. And just in front of those guys, Tony Vilander in the locally based R-Ferry Motorsport Ferrari.
And of course, Daniel Mancinelli didn't realize this coming in. His dad was born in Toronto, so you can cheer for him too. And how about the chase seems to be on?
He's definitely on. Young 17-year-old Parker Chase broke through yesterday. It was his very first PWC and GTA win, but work to do today. He'll start from the very back row of the grid.
You see those 2 Bentleys up front. They rolled the dice and made a huge change. The cars just weren't working in the wet yesterday. They were planning all the way for round 5.
Well, the key is your fast lap in race 1 sets the grid for race 2, what we're looking at right now, and they decided to switch to the slick tires as the track was drying out. Everyone else couldn't afford to do that. They would lose track position. These guys were just focused on today. They've got the front row, Greg, but they've got pace as well in the dry. Alvaro Prent was quickest on Friday.
Absolutely. And for Rodrigo Baptista, starting second, third in the AM sprint category. This is a huge opportunity for him. How's it going to play out? We'll find out when we come back for the green at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. All right, back with you here on our global web stream, and they're going to do 2 formation laps. I think it's smart because the last time these guys ran was a very different racetrack, and they had no warm-up of any type this morning, and lots of different stuff running throughout the course of the day today. This is just something they need to have truly a recon lap.
It is, and what you'll see, some of these guys just pace themselves back a little bit, give themselves some cushion there to run through a couple of these corners hard just to feel what the balance is like, but you never know until you really get some tire temp and the pressure's up on the first couple of laps of this race. But talking to some of these drivers, they're ready to go for it. Daniel Morad said, I'm a little surprised I qualified way back on row 3. He said, I had some grip left in my wet weather tires, didn't realize that we'd been shuffled back in terms of the fastest laps to 6. So he said, I got to make hay early.
And conversely, the guy who starts third, Tony Vilander, the drier that track got, and the worse, quote-unquote, the Pirelli P0 seemed to get, the faster he went.
Yeah, the car was just diabolical in the wet. They just could not get it to work, as were the Bentleys. They really struggled in qualifying. We're talking about 7-8 seconds off the pace in qualifying here yesterday morning when it was treacherous conditions for the Ferraris and for the Bentleys compared to everyone else.
Yeah, I talked to Tony earlier. He said, this is the first time ever in my driving career I've had to get permission to race because I was outside of the 107% rule.
That tells you,
it certainly does.
This is a guy who grew up on ice.
Yeah, if anybody was used to it. And I have to admit, Yuki Hirata, when I talked to him, I walked over and I said, so how was it yesterday? And he went, oh, that was fun. Yeah. So even if you weren't exactly fast, you were having a great time slinging these beautiful cars around like you were racing on ice. It was a lot of fun. So we're going to pause here, and when we come back, we'll be back with our CBS Sports Network. The lights are out on the safety car. We are getting ready to go green for round 5 of the Pirelli World Challenge GT Sprint Championship. An all Bentley front row, an all professional drivers second row, and an all Canadian third row. This should be a lot of fun as they come around and complete their second lap, as watch for that Camaro to duck into pit lane, and then everybody gets onto that front straight. And we have seen opportunity from the outside. How far will Rodrigo Baptista push Pirelli down into 1?
They should have discussed that they need to get it clean through turn 1 and then try and get into a rhythm here.
Now, a little wiggle there. Now they get it settled down, and we are green! And it is, oh, what a move by
Mancinelli there to the inside of Hargrove. In the white Ferrari, Hargrove tries to respond. There's a little touch on the exit of 1. Daniel Morad in the bright orange machine tries to take advantage on his fellow Canadian.
And he's trying at Hargrove just to the inside now, down into 2 of Morad. We're watching it because they've had issues between 1 and 2 in their GT Cup Canada career, and they're still in close concert. There is yesterday's winner, and you can see sparks are flying, and that's just because those tires aren't fully up to pressure.
They're not up to pressure, so they don't have the complete ride height right now. That will settle down a little bit. Look at Morad. He said, I'm going to try and take it flat on the opening lap through turn 4. He said, that's where I know my car is good, but Mancinelli is up to the task right in front of him.
Well, in the dry sessions on Friday in practice, Mancinelli topped one of them. Talked to him earlier today, and he said it's dry. I'm very excited.
Yeah, super excited, and he's relishing the fact we've got dry conditions here today, because he's another guy who said, I just could not drive my car in the wet here yesterday.
And Alvaro Pirelli, after the way his season started, I've been saying, oh, look at this, the 2 Canadians side by side into 8.
The fierce rivals going at it. Bragging rights on the line in front of their home crowd. They're side by side through 9. Hargrove takes the line away. Morad responds down to the inside. Can Hargrove get on the power early enough? Here comes Parker Chase.
The 17-year-old, so impressive in the wet and coming after these 2 seasoned pros. Well, I'll tell you, just stories galore in this field right now. And Morad, when Hargrove got up alongside, he's no way. No way.
They are fierce rivals. I'm not sure if there's much love lost between these 2 guys, but up front, Brent in the Bentley, they knew this would be a strong racetrack for that Bentley that excels in high-speed corners like we see here today, and he's proving it.
And it's interesting, Hargrove and Morad 1-2 in the Sprint Championship, and so this has huge points implications, not just sort of bragging rights in front of the home crowd here.
Oh, Baptista's wide, up on the curb there. Can Tony Vilander take advantage? No, he can't immediately, but he's in the draft now as they hit up the Mario Andretti straightaway.
And that little moment just gives Pirelli a little bit more breathing room. We were getting at the point that throughout the weekend here, in the dry sessions, Pirelli was blindingly fast as well. And you almost had the feeling like he said, I need to be in the front. I need to control my destiny. I don't want to get taken out by somebody. Best way to do that is to lead early.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got into a rhythm, and Baptista's now going to have to defend a little bit, maybe compromise his line. Michael Christensen is looking pretty tasty as well there, sitting in the 4th position in that Allegra Motorsports Porsche.
He's got a fair amount of facial hair now. I didn't recognize him in the paddock. I did a double take before I walked up to him and chatted with him. And I'll tell you what, yeah, this track, he loves this place. He has certainly a lot of experience here. He's a little wide as well.
There. Ran up on the back of Tony Vilander. We're talking about these GT3 cars being high downforce machines. They're reliant on that front aero to get the cars turned, and if you rush up on someone, it can take the air off the nose of the car and take the downforce away.
Just that little bit of a moment, you can see Mancinelli closes up by about 2-3 lengths as they whistle down through turn 4 into Moss Corner.
I'd have to say the huge surprise here is the fact that we're seeing Morad and Hargrove deeper in the pack than we expected. Currently running in 6th and 7th overall, 5th and 6th in class.
Now, the one thing about this track is it's difficult to pass on at the best of times in these cars with that aero dependence, and you get close, as you said to somebody, in these long duration momentum corners. It's just difficult to figure out a way through sometimes.
It really is. You just got to pick your moments here. And it will come down to that car setup. Who has the best balance, and where will their car be towards the latter half of this? Will we expect a green flag run here today?
It's a good look at the Finn. Tony Vilander, 2-time Le Mans winner.
And what, Brent uses all of the road and a bit more there on turn in. Nearly dropped the left side in the grass.
Got to be a little careful about that, don't you? Because if you plant there and rotate, it can snap around on you, and you're carrying huge speed at that point.
You really are. We've had a lot of rain here over the last few days, so that grass is extremely wet, and if you're loaded when you do it, not so bad on turn in for turn 1, but on the exit here, turn 3, saw an incident earlier in the day in the GTS round where someone dropped some wheels and had a huge impact in the outside wall.
Boy, look at the lead that Pirelli has built up here, 2.2 seconds. Let's go back, take a look at the start. It's actually under review. Watch Mancinelli in the white Ferrari. That's where the concern was, apparently.
You see Vilander looking to the inside, and then Mancinelli goes, green flag is out. He hasn't really passed anyone yet, so I think he's cool with that. Looked like a good start to me, just anticipation was perfect.
Yep. And, yeah, from my perspective, too, looking at that, it looked like Hargrove just shifted left a little bit. And that wasn't anything. And we get word, start reviewed, no further action. So Mancinelli free to race, no issues here.
Look at the two Canadians again. They're side by side as they enter turn 8. There they are, battling out into turn 9. Morad and Hargrove, who's going to give each other an inch? No one.
Wow, Hargrove going to try and stay around the outside that time in 10. And you can see that time Hargrove exited 9 a little bit wider, trying to dissuade Morad from doing anything. And again, Morad having none. This is great stuff.
It really is, and I think for Hargrove, he's potentially feeling that his car is a bit more pace, but he's stymied right now behind Daniel. Looks like they may have missed the setup a little bit in that CRP Mercedes here in these dry conditions.
And do keep in mind, these guys, as I said, 1-2 in the Sprint Championship. Hargrove leads it. And when you're that far back in the pack, Cal, the difference between the positions they're running with right now, Morad in 6, Hargrove in 7, is not huge. Just how hard is Hargrove going to go here unless he thinks he can actually get through more cars as well?
Well, you've got to factor in the big picture all of the time in terms of the championship and who you're effectively fighting right now. Certainly Vilander is a major threat in this championship, but there's a long way to go in this championship season, so he's got to get aggressive here. He needs bigger points than he's seeing right now.
And there's another look at Daniel Mancinelli. We're back on him for one reason. Since he got cleared on that start, he is also our Optima Batteries Best Start Award winner, up 2 spots at the conclusion of the opening lap. Great run for Daniel Mancinelli in the TR3 Ferrari 488 GT3. Nice job, and we'll be back. While we're in break, folks, back with you here on the Global Web Call, and I think this is going to be an absolutely fierce battle, and the more times that Hargrove attacks on Daniel and gets alongside and that Daniel defends, you know the margins are going to get thinner between those mirrors.
Yeah, well, it's a fascinating championship scenario right now. Scott Hargrove leads both the sprint and the overall standings, but with the win yesterday, Morad is now tied Vilander as he runs wide up and over the curb there through Moss.
He's pushing for everything he's worth right now. Obviously, as they look at Vilander up the road, that's a very good point. Vilander tied with Morad, and he's in a great position right now to close up on Hargrove and make a little bit of a split back to Morad at this point. So urgency everywhere you look on this track. And I'll tell you, it's not just that our ferry's based here in Toronto with the Ferrari Ontario, Ferrari Toronto, and Ferrari Alberta sponsorship on that car. But that red with those gold wheels, it's one of the more evocative paint schemes of any race car, I think, on the planet right now.
Absolutely, is a beautiful machine, and Tony Vilander in these dry conditions is putting it to good effect. Obviously, the Bentley seem to have the pace on the field right now, but a long way to go, Greg.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things with the Bentley. When you talk to the guys, they say the long duration, high speed stuff is where we excel because we can power into the aero, and this car works incredibly well. It's not a street fighter point and squirt kind of a car, and they were licking their chops. VIR, this track rated the same as VIR, and they were fast there. But again, Alvaro having the incident.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing about the Bentley over the years historically has been very kind to its tyres. It doesn't come to life early in the race, but it's typically good in terms of the long green flag run. So that should be good news for Pirelli as he's searching for that first victory of the season. We expected him to come out the back strong. They made the switch from the McLaren to the Bentley platform for this year. They looked at it, they did a lot of evaluation over the offseason in terms of making that decision. They thought they had a great car, but in the early rounds, just everything seems to have gone wrong other than the podium run that he had at Long Beach. But even that day, he wasn't truly competitive.
Yeah, that podium came after misfortune for some others. The margin last time, 3.2 for Parent over his young teammate Baptiste, and now 3.5 seconds. So he just a couple of tenths every lap. It keeps easing away. Has set the fastest lap of the race thus far. So having a good one. Now, it's important for everybody to realize Baptiste runs in the lead in the GTA category, the GTM category, but the pro points are overall. So Vilander, even though he's second in the class, right now, Christensen, Mancinelli are getting points right now. We're at the end for third, fourth, and fifth. So that has to be something that you just got to keep in mind as well, I think.
Yeah, certainly for Tony Vilander, if he gets close to Baptiste, it's not all about, well, I'm second. Right now, you're going to get third place points by running second over in class and third overall. So you would put the pressure on Baptiste if he has the opportunity.
All right, we're going to pause for just a minute. We'll be back with our CBS Sports Network coverage, folks. As always, a doubleheader. So it was an awfully eventful race that unfolded yesterday in sort of bizarre conditions, but today absolutely glorious. And you watch here as this guy Alvaro Perrin just continues to stretch the margin another couple of tenths. The margin now knocking on the door of 4 seconds, Cal.
Yeah, he's really in a rhythm. The car looks strong, and as we've said before, the Bentley is typically easy on the tires, and he's starting to use that little bit of curbage there, as we call it, in the middle of Moss Corner to set up for a wider radius onto that back straightaway. Tony Vilander has been setting personal best sectors and personal best lap time, so he looks strong in that Ferry Motorsports Ferrari, and he's going to put the pressure on Baptiste. As you mentioned, Greg, your points are scored on your overall position, so even though he's thinking I'm second in class right now, he needs to get around Baptiste to get second place points.
Well, and he's then able to gap Christensen and Mancinelli behind him so he can put all of his focus forward. And right now, Pilar down in pit lane, things are looking good for our Ferry.
Yes, I'm actually here with team owner Remo Ferry. Remo, this is a race that is a hometown track for you guys. Tell me a little bit about the emotions for running here.
Well, first of all, yesterday we started out not very good. I mean, the rain, our car didn't work very well. But I think today we're going to race. I think racing at home, it's always a pleasure because we have all our base here, we have our business, we have our clients, we come to Motorsport often. And with Tony, we go way back. I mean, he's raced for me in the past. It's very emotional. I think it's fantastic. We hope to be on the podium. That's what it's all about. So it's fantastic to race on Motorsport.
Thank you so much.
You can hear the emotion there and the passion. That's one thing Remo has, a love for the sport, bar none.
Special weekend for that man in his hometown here with his business, of course, and you know, they've had so much success here over the years, but right now he's just thinking, He said podium, but he was coming in this weekend wanting a lot more than that. He'd love to get the top step of that podium here today, but it's going to be a tough fight with those Bentleys out front.
It is, and also we talked about at the top of the show, they haven't really experienced this track condition right now. So obviously the driver inside is going to be making whatever adjustments they can, but you never know. The track comes back to you. If you set your car up to be a little bit better late, things can change as this race unfolds. And when you got Tony Vielander behind the wheel, you know really anything's possible.
Oh, he's a fighter, and when he said he couldn't drive the car yesterday, you'd have to admit that must have been a real handful in those wet conditions. But right now, this is the biggest surprise to me, that Morad and Hargrove, the two local experts, you expected them to be duking it out for the victory here in these perfect conditions. They are mired in the pack, and that just really demonstrates the depth of competition in Pirelli World Challenge GT class this year.
Well, Daniel, I think, was a little frustrated after the race yesterday because he said, I had that lead, I was managing things a little bit, and I didn't realize that guys were chipping away at the times that I had set. I had more left in those tires as opposed to some of the other guys, and he said, I never had the opportunity to show it.
Yeah, some of the drivers are literally down to the carcass, and hats off to Pirelli for providing a wet that went through extreme conditions yesterday with the track basically dry, and guys really pushing hard towards the end of that race that everything held together. But Daniel had more left in his tires, and he could have pushed a little bit harder, and maybe if he'd started on the second row of the grid, they wouldn't touch the Bentley certainly, or on slicks at the end, but they could have been on the second row, and that could have changed the face of this race so far.
As he heads onto the front straight, and it's great. He's working to build his brand, and I love the name for it, Moradness. You got a little Moradness? Well, you need some.
He's a cool character. He really is. Great personality. Great to have him in the championship. Full-time now as the Sprint X partner last year to Ryan Dial. Moves into that full-time seat. He'll be joined by Fabian Schiller, we believe, next week from the Mercedes factory team for Lime Rock. The next round of competition is Sprint X, where it's a dual driver format, which will run next weekend in Connecticut.
And of course, Scott Hargrove right here in this number 96 Pfaff Porsche.
Ooh, that was a twitch.
Wow.
When you push, he said, I'm flat out through turn 4 once the tires are up to temperature, but you saw a little bit of bottom out there, and Daniel had to hang on to it.
Yeah, that's quick hands, isn't it, to make that save. But getting back to what we were saying about Hargrove, he's from Tawasin, British Columbia, but the team, Pfaff, is based right here, and we've been talking about it. It is the biggest Porsche dealership in North America, so there's a lot on the line here. And look at this battle in the AM category as Martin Fuentes coming alongside yesterday's winner, side by side for second in GTM.
Up into the brake zone, Parker Chase takes it in super deep. They almost touch. Martin gives him just enough room. Remember, Baptista leads in class. This is a battle for second right now between Chase and Fuentes, with Harada running in the 4th position in the Lamborghini.
A little cost of momentum. Martin Fuentes drops back just a little bit. Things settle. So we're going to sneak away for just a moment here, but we'll be back as the action fierce here, Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Wow, that was so close, Cal, and you can make that outside move, but I think Martin realized just a little later than he maybe wanted that, nope, it's not quite going to work here, and if they didn't touch, there was, maybe a paper's width between them.
Yeah, and Parker knew that he had that inside line, so he just outbraved him on the brakes there. He's going to keep it, but there was nearly a touch there. Martin had to have quick hands there to make room for both cars there at a critical point in the corner. Here he comes again, gets the draft up the Mario Andretti straightaway. Maybe he can time it a little bit differently. Parker sticks to his guns there in the middle of the road, makes him go the long way around, and Martin is not quite as close as he was on that previous lap.
One of the reasons that you might actually just have a slightly different line into turn 8 is to get away from the draft, the wash of that car in front of you, get a little better air on the nose just to get planted, because the approach speeds and as you turn into 8 in these cars, it's lightning fast.
It really is. As we saw in that Porsche track preview with Michael, it's certainly just down a gear and then back on it hard. Really high speed sweeps here, and these GT3 cars can really take advantage of the downforce.
Down through 2, heading into 3. Tricky corner this. You open it up right there, and that curb, if you get it right, it's fast. If you get it a little wrong there, that curb can do all kinds of things to you.
Where you're most loaded up, Greg, there's actually no curbs. It's almost like that curbing starts right about when you finish loading the car. You still got steering input in the car if you get up on it, but most of the load in the car has gone away by that point, so it's just dropping a wheel before the curb is the issue.
And up and out of Moss, and the climb up Mario Andretti straightaway. And again, Fuentes tucks in behind. Doesn't think he's quite close enough this time. And it all comes down to sometimes, if you want to make a pass at this track, you better be good getting out of Moss.
It's a critical corner. Settling back down a little bit, so Martin was on the attack. I think they realized that the battle for the victory here today is probably out of the question unless we see Baptista have some kind of issue. This is the battle for the next bundle of points, and Martin tried to surprise him there, but turn one, they don't really have to lift off much down through there, so it's a tough place to make a move. Just trying to rattle people when you put your nose in down there. You're really not expecting to pass.
Great battle unfolding for second in the GTA category here in round 5, the GT Championship in the sprint category for the Pirelli World Challenge is Martin Fuentes in that multi-liveried Ferrari.
He looks to the inside. Parker just opens up his hands. Good driving by both drivers there. Martin realized the move wasn't on. Parker saw him and just didn't go for the apex. Gave him a little bit of respect and a little bit of racing room. That was good stuff.
I think both of these guys realize that Baptista is gone in terms of the GTA win today with the Bentley and the performance it has. This is the battle right now. And Martin's been in attack mode. And Parker right now, 17 years old, getting that first win in the rain yesterday and doing everything he can right now to hold off one of the best GTA drivers that's ever come along. You look at what Martin did in 2016 and what he's doing this year. That's a great drive by Parker. But up front, Alvaro Parent. That margin now, Cal, has come back down just a little bit. It was up to into the 3.5 second range. It's now down to 2.9. Baptista is just letting him walk.
No, this kid is for real. What a talent he is. Saw him compete last year, numerous wins in the GTS class. Makes the big jump up to GT3 machinery. Kind of a slow start, not slow literally, but an easy start to the year at St. Petersburg. But since that time, really finding his feet and had a brilliant Sprint X round victory at VIR just a few weeks ago.
This is vastly different than what he had been driving, isn't it? Moving to the Bentley, right-hand drive. I mean, all kinds of little things that he had to adjust to, but he did quickly. And yeah, as you said, VIR, I mean, he was on pace with his very pro teammate, Maxime Soulet there. And what a drive they put together to win. Was it the first of the doubleheaders there overall?
Yeah, that's right. Overall win. So very, very quick kid. And he's quiet and kind of keeps himself to himself, but he's very focused and he's going places in motorsport. Look at this battle for third. That is intensifying. Christensen is getting a little bit closer to Vilander. Morad has got Hargrove in tow as they chase after Mancinelli and the other Ferrari.
I think they might be closing just a little bit on Mancinelli, too. He had opened up a little margin, and they might be reeling him in just a little bit so we can see a couple of good battles. And obviously Baptista's pace has taken him clear. Ooh, Hargrove wide down at the bottom of 2. That's when you're grateful for that little bit of extra pavement out there.
Yeah, that didn't used to be there, and it's not quite as intimidating. Gives you that little cushion if you need it, but you got to be careful because the stewards have really got their eye on track limits around this circuit. They're giving the drivers a little bit more room here this weekend. Typically, you got to have at least 2 wheels on the correct side of the white line. Now they're saying you could use all of the curbing as well. So they realize that, you know, it can be a problem if you start to pinch the car to avoid a track limit. That can get you in trouble around this circuit.
Yeah, so basically, as long as you got a tire on the curbing, you're okay, really.
That's correct.
Yeah. There's that run up and over turn 8 here. Boy, that's the only part of this track that's ever changed. They shaved that just a little bit in turn 8. In the old days, those flat bottom cars were catching air and they were at such speed. Up there, Brad!
So the inside, that's late, super late. Mancinelli sees him. Fortunately, watch for Hargrove. He's going to get a run on Mancinelli and passes him.
Mancinelli saw it and opened the wheel to let it go. Now Hargrove down to the inside, and turn 1 is where these guys have met before.
They've got history.
And they sneak through it here.
They are up on the wheel.
Oh, boy.
Morad didn't sort of telegraph that move on Mancinelli. As soon as he caught him, he just put it right in there. Hargrove tried to take advantage. You knew that both of the cars are going to be slow off that corner. Hargrove gets the Ferrari, and he wanted a bit more.
I'm sure Mancinelli, I don't think he'll have a problem too much with what happened in 10, but then he got stuck out on that grass exiting turn 10, and Murad went over to grab the line back. I think that was just extremely good, hard racing.
And that was experience right there, recognizing I've made this move many times before in other forms of competition. Just stuck it down the inside. Mancinelli fortunately saw him just as he was about to turn in. Made way for Morad. No contact really, but the position was gone.
Absolutely, and I mean, Mancinelli certainly ran here last year, I believe, but he never had anybody attack him there in 10. And Murad, it was smart not to try it, to telegraph it at all. That's the way you make that work. You've got to completely surprise the guy and hope he senses you there.
You do have to, because it is tough to pass around this racetrack, Greg. We talk about the downforce, the aero wash that you can get. It's tough to follow cars closely enough to be in a position to make a move. So when you do catch them at the right time, you've got to pounce.
Absolutely. Meanwhile, up front, it is Parent. That margin now still about 2.6 seconds. He's managing things beautifully. And Pilar with Darren Law, the program manager down there, they've got to be delighted finally with how this is all unfolding.
Yeah, it's a very exciting day for K-Pax. Darren, is it where you guys just started your pole position? Is it the weather? What is it that's on y'all side today?
Well, number one, obviously the start position was really important, and that was the goal from yesterday, to qualify up front. But we've got great cars. The K-Pax crew has done a great job, and I mean, obviously the weather's good. The cars have been very fast in the dry, so we're only halfway. We've got a ways to go still.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's never going to jinx it saying, yep, it looks good or anything like that. And one thing I think we really need to give some serious props to Bentley, because with all the damage that has happened to Parent's car, they've gone through a number of different cars. And just to get him here, they had to get a car from the Absolute team in Malaysia, and Bentley helped make that happen, didn't they?
Yeah, 14,000 kilometers air freighted into Atlanta just last Friday. They then took the car to VIR, which was the last round of the championship, where they'd left their rig and transporter, put the car together, and immediately Parent was on the pace in the first practice and then topped the second practice. That's what Darren Law's talking about. The car is quick in the dry. They struggled in the wet yesterday and qualified, struggled in the race, and then just put all of this strategy around getting the car on slick tires, getting that fast lap, getting the pole, and this is the result.
And for Parent, it's really out of the points completely for him. It's getting wins for Bentley representing, and he's doing a nice job of that right now. Now, if you're a huge fan of the Pirelli World Challenge, and if you're watching, you probably are, you know you can follow all the news of the Pirelli World Challenge by downloading our new fan app. Go to the Apple App Store or Google Play App Store and search for the PWC fan app and start getting in deep. And you can also follow along on many other social media platforms. On Facebook, just search for PWC Championship. On Twitter, search for @WC Racing. And on Instagram, it's hashtag Pirelli World Challenge or hashtag Pirelli WC. And as always, for all things Pirelli World Challenge, go online to the series website, world-challenge.com. Back with you here on our global web feed, and looks though it's Baptista's just continuing to ease away a little bit here from Vielander, but on those last couple of laps, Parent ballooned that margin right back up again, Cal, almost 3.5, and Rodrigo's doing a nice job still, though.
Yeah, and he's focused on the AM class
Yes.
win here today. That'll be his focus solely, and if the overall win came his way with problems for his teammate, he'd certainly take it, but Morad just laid down his fastest lap of the race, a 1:17.2. That compares to the fastest lap of the day by Parent at a 1:16.8. So that Mercedes is gradually coming into a sweet spot. We saw him bottom out a little bit, so maybe they just start the car super low on tire pressures, expecting with this higher ambient temperature here today, higher track temps to really balloon those tires out. And I think he was just maybe a little bit too low. So a big twitch in turn 4 for Morad, but now the rubbing glots would have kind of ground away a little bit. Tires are coming into their sweet spot pressure-wise, and he may find a good balance on the race car.
You know, something that's interesting here, I think, for Baptista, as you said, certainly he is focused on the AM Championship and having opportunity. But in the combined overall, which includes the Sprint and the Sprint X Championship, he's 5th after that overall win at VIR. I mean, there's a lot of racing yet to go this year. He's having a remarkable rookie, quote-unquote, season here in this category.
He is. He certainly is. And they had their targets for the year, and there's a lot of chatter about, you know, with his overall win at VIR, should he be bumped up to the pro class? The series decided no. He was classified as a GTA driver. We're going to keep him in that, but he's got some weight added. They've added 1.5%, about 20 kilograms to that race car. So he's actually run a little bit heavier than his teammate.
That's a good point. So doing a very, very nice job. And, yeah, that's a new regulation that they put in, and it makes sense. It gives them some options here, as opposed to if you win something, you're automatically out. And I think it's a good call. Vilander, bumpy right there as he turns in to Moss. Car took the set and back out just that fast with Michael Christensen right there in that Allegra InSync Healthcare Systems Porsche right on his 6 as they worked their way up the Mario Andretti straightaway.
Understanding that Daniel Morad did get a warning from the driver's steward. We assume that is for the move on Mancinelli in terms of giving the competitor some racing room. No penalty, but just a warning.
Well, I think what that was for, Cal, it wasn't the move into 10. It was as they exited 10, and Mancinelli was off to the right a little bit. Right. He just went to the curb, right? And it got Mancinelli sort of bounding through the dirt over there. I mean, that's my guess. Yeah,
essentially they're saying it's okay to make that aggressive move into 10, but give the guy some racing room as you come off the corner. And that certainly had an effect in terms of Mancinelli's acceleration and allowed Hargrove to pounce.
Brad down through turn 2. Right to the edge. Just fun to watch these guys wheel these cars around this track.
Yeah, he is chasing hard. He is catching this pair in front of him. So that Mercedes certainly looked to be struggling a little bit in the early going. And now it's coming into his sweet spot, and Daniel is now finding a rhythm. He's gapped Hargrove by a nice chunk right now. 3 seconds is the gap between Morad and Hargrove, and they were nose to tail not long ago.
Well, I'll tell you, I mean, this place is certainly interesting in the wet and fog, but it is beautiful on a sunny day like this, isn't it? Just the trees, watching them work through moss. Let's go back and take a look at that. And this move, I think, was fine. It's at the exit.
Yeah, right there, just kind of went all the way out to the curb, just ensuring that it would keep that position. And you want to straighten your hands, of course, if you kind of keep steering input in it, kind of compromises your ability to get hard on the power.
Sprint cars, they call that a block pass.
Yeah, these guys, they don't give each other much room. They just got to be respectful, and they felt that Daniel had crossed the line a little bit. Right now, he's got targets in front of. Oh, a little sideways move there up over the crest of the hill. That camera angle really doesn't do it justice. When you watch that corner from the side of the racetrack, you're dropping over a cliff right there, and you lose a lot of grip.
All right, folks, we're going to pause. We're going to be coming back with our CBS Sports Network coverage in a moment. Alvaro Parent continues to lead. Now the lead up to some 4 seconds here at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. As you can see, he has gone around the number 55 of Yuki Harada in the Dream Racing Lamborghini. And it is now Rodrigo Baptista coming up on Yuki's 6. Nice job there by Yuki. Just opening the wheel up, letting him through. Yuki, they just have been struggling for a little bit of speed in that car here. And Yuki, I think, just showing that for only having been in racing for a couple of years, he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders.
Yeah, and we talk about this racetrack being the ultimate challenge for the drivers. It's the ultimate challenge for the engineers too, in terms of getting the car comfortable underneath the driver there. And the Lamborghini in dry conditions has just not looked happy. See Vilander there exiting turn 1. Christensen not far behind, but the fastest man on the racetrack up until that very last lap was Daniel Morad. He caught a little bit of traffic there, so that hurt him. But there we see him. He is catching this pair in front of him.
And I said Yuki Harada, only a second year in racing. I should clarify, only a second year racing cars, because he spent a lot of years racing downhill on skis. So he understands that aspect of it.
He's wide there. You got to be careful when you're making room for these drivers. The marbles are out there. It's a hairy place to make the gap for the traffic coming through. Now he's trying to get out of the way of Daniel Morad, who's on a charge right now.
Morad going to try and get a little toe, but Yuki just moves over, so Morad will take advantage of that. But it did cost Morad a bit, didn't it?
And I think it cost Vilander a little bit. Christensen looks slightly closer here as they climb the straightaway.
Up into turn 8. Christensen not really close enough to do anything with it. But, and again, you've always got to be mindful in these cars. You get close enough to that guy in front in a high-speed corner and get in that wash, it'll change just a bit the grip level you have at the front.
Oh, for sure, and Mike will be totally aware of that. You got two of the best in the business, Porsche factory driver Michael Christensen going up against a Ferrari factory driver in Tony Vilander. And the Allegra Motorsports team have really started to find the sweet spot on that setup. Kind of struggled in the early rounds, matching the pace of the Pfaff Motorsport car of Scott Hargrove, but now they've done a little bit of testing, got more rounds of the championship under their belt, and Michael Christensen putting in the performances that we expected.
And obviously we had talked about it a little bit earlier too. You could work your car, set it up so that it actually comes back to you a little bit later in the race as well. And I'll tell you what, Murad lost that little bit of ground, Cal. He's made it up in a flash.
Yeah, he really has. At certain times he's been about half a second a lap quicker than these guys, and this is huge for Daniel Morad. He knows that he's got in front of Scott Hargrove, so he's going to re into that championship lead, but he's tied in the points with Tony Vilander. He'd love to get around both of these cars, at least get on the podium, and hopefully beat Tony Vilander here today as well.
Yeah, the red car's the target. It was interesting when I talked to Nick Short, who of course fields Daniel Morad. He said, we're not worried about Parent. That's really not anything. He said, we're looking at a red car and we're looking at a multicolored Porsche. That's our reference point today.
Yeah, they're okay with Parent taking the big points. Yes, they'd love to sweep the weekend and get a double victory here on Daniel's home soil, but they're thinking about that championship.
Look at that. Up and over. It's a blind approach, and if you don't have the car placed correctly, you're busy as you fall down that hill, aren't you?
You really are busy. It's arms and elbows inside that cockpit as once again Daniel Morad takes 5/6 tenths out of the gap to the two cars in front of him. They are going to suddenly see that bright orange Mercedes-AMG machine right on their tail within a lap or two.
You know, it intrigues me. He had that great move into 10, but we've been watching him, as you said, absolutely flat through 4. He could surprise into Moss, couldn't he?
He absolutely could, and he realizes there's not many places you can pass around this racetrack. He said one is down into 5 and into 10. He talked about that just a couple hours before this race. He's made one of those moves today.
Got to love the sound of that V8 and that Mercedes. All as we said, such variety here. Beautiful Ferrari whistling through turn number 8. Christensen in the Ferrari, the Porsche, the flat 6, and the big V8. Normally aspirated. Boy, he is close.
He is close, and this is the half of the lap where this car is really, really good. He's just got to hope that that aero wash is not so strong that's taking the air off those little dive planes in that front splitter when you really need it in the critical sections of these high-speed corners. He's going to ring it through here. He's got to try and get close through turn 2 and then take advantage where he feels he has the advantage down through turn 4. He is close. He is really close to Michael Christensen. Watch for Daniel Morad here. He's going to try and get around good exit speed out of 3 and try and take it flat through turn 4 and maybe make a move into Moss corner.
A couple of car lengths. I don't know if that's close enough.
Right there is where he really pushes.
Boy, he gets that wiggle, but you can tell he just never lifts. And the problem when you start to lose the air on the nose, it's not just, obviously suddenly the car doesn't turn, but you start sliding and scrubbing those fronts more, they overheat, and it can really back you up a ways, can't it?
For sure, if you're doing it continually, whatever imbalance you have in the car will typically be exaggerated, and that goes with the tire wear at the same time.
Lars found her way down to the CRP pit. What are you hearing from that team?
So I just talked to team manager Nick Shorts, and he said Morad said that the car feels great. Right now they're just focusing on one driver at a time, and right now that driver just so happens to be Christensen, so they're on him, and that's their target.
Absolutely, that makes sense. Car's good, and it's just that that's the way you do it. You don't want to think too far ahead here. Just get the guy in front of you.
Yeah, it wasn't the start they were looking for. Daniel really felt that he could make some hay in the opening lap and take some chances. That avenue didn't open up for him, so he just had to be settled in, be patient, find the rhythm, let the race car on the racetrack come to him. He's got a fast race car, but this was his issue with not qualifying well, Greg. He said, we may have a fast race car, but doing anything with it is tough to pass. There you see it bottoming out again. When he tries and run that speed through turn 4, it just seems like that ride height is super low on that Mercedes here.
And it doesn't really seem to bother him one bit, because he does it 3-4 laps in a row, just keeps it pinned. But as you said, that might be just enough that affect his attack into Moss, into 5A as they call it. But that doesn't mean that he can get close enough and get Christensen to just miss his turn in a little bit. You can still make the attack. up into the second part of that corner. He certainly is not going to give up, but he's been sitting behind Christensen now for a while, and you wonder what might be happening on the nose of that car. We'll find out when we come back with more from Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. Back with you here on our global web feed. Thanks so much for joining us today, by the way. Such a beautiful day here. Hope it's the same for you, wherever you may be watching. And, boy, this time, I don't know, it just looked like the attitude for Murad a little bit stronger through 3.
Yeah, he really widens that entry point to get the maximum radius through there. And this is where you feel the car is super strong. You see him there really pushing deep on the brakes, just trying to be in a position to slide down the inside, up and over the curb there, trying to widen the radius off. But I think Michael Christensen got a slightly better traction off that corner. And it seems like the Porsche is a little bit stronger than the Mercedes up this straightaway as well, looking at the trap speeds on the previous lap. I know he's pulling a bit of a draft from the Ferrari, but Daniel should be getting an equal draft as well. And it seems like the Porsche has about 3 miles per hour here.
It almost looked to me like maybe Murad was surprised that time at how quick he closed onto the back of Christensen in the middle of Moss, and he had to juke left a little bit, got up in the curb.
Murad almost needs Wielander to back Christensen up a little bit and kind of have Christensen as the meat in the sandwich. That may enable him to take advantage of the situation.
And interestingly, the last couple of laps, Hargrove has been a couple of tenths quicker than Murad, so interesting to see that unfold here. I'm sure they're on the radio with Daniel saying, yeah, if you can do this, it would be good, because Scott Hargrove has found a little speed. Boy, he's close this time.
He is close, and he is putting it all on the line. You can see the language of the car is twitchy. Daniel is asking for a little bit more on every single corner here today.
Here he comes. What happens again? He gets so close right there.
Mercedes is super strong through there, really good low-speed grip, but then coming off, you get the traction down with that rear-engine Porsche going up against the front-engine Mercedes.
What do you Brits say? The big lump in the back right over the drive wheels.
And that makes a big difference.
Yeah, it does.
You're looking to get on the power early, just getting that weight up over the drive wheels. No one blinking right now. No chink in the armor from Wielander or Christensen. There's no easy meat out here in this championship this year.
Well, and you're looking in the Ferrari and in that Porsche, two of the very best on the planet. And Daniel Murad is proving himself to do that. We talked about it at VIR last year when he held off Jerome Bleekemolen in an identical type of car. And he has just shown that he may be right on that level with some of the best in the business. And doing a nice job. And here he comes again. Murad, so quick, down through 2, gets to the back of Christensen. Not quite as close this time.
He isn't. Let's just see what he does down through 4. Watch the language of that Mercedes there. See the little sparks fly as he hits the skid blocks there. Runs up high, really just trying to be super patient there. But Christensen is so strong off of Moss corner with the traction.
In the back in that Porsche with the black and red hood, Scott Hargrove.
And he was half a second quicker than these 3 in front of him that last lap. You know Scott Hargrove is not going to give up.
No way.
There's a lot on the line here today. There's bragging rights, there's pride, and there's championship scenarios.
Christensen, the InSync Healthcare Systems Allegra Porsche. Again, that team winning the 24 Hours of Daytona last year, ironically, with Daniel Murad as a co-driver with Christensen and a host of other young drivers. Now competing directly against each other in this championship, and literally on track today. And you'd mentioned that Murad really needs Wielander to sort of check up Christensen a little bit, and instead Wielander has been able to ease away from the Porsche.
Yeah, Tony Wielander will be believing he's having a really good day here. Yes, the Bentleys are out front and going to probably claim the top 2 positions, but it's a big points day for Tony Wielander, and that's what a championship is all about. You just got to maximize, execute. Get the most you can out of that weekend. It's not always going to be a victory. It's not always going to be second, but if you can beat your championship contenders, it's still a good day.
Yeah, Vilander came into this race today, tied for second, 14 points behind Hargrove, and right now he runs, what, 3 spots in front of Hargrove, so that will come down a fair amount here, probably by some 6 points or thereabouts.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
And he's going to have Miguel Molina back with him next weekend at Lime Rock for the doubleheader Sprint X weekend. We transitioned from the 50-minute single driver format to a 60-minute mandatory pit stop 2-driver format.
They've proven to be a tasty little combination when it comes to Sprint X racing. Alvaro Parent continuing to control things from the front in his K-Pax Bentley. The Opticoat machine, the Continental GT3 at margin, has always been in the 2.5 or the 3.5 to 4.5 second range for the last few laps. There is his young teammate, Ricardo Baptista, in the team Opticoat K-Pax Bentley, comfortably leading in the GT Am class right now. And there is the red Ferrari of Tony Vilander leading the battle that has big points implications here as they are coming up the hill once again. There's Rodrigo.
And there you see the gap back to Tony Vilander, and it looks comfortable between Tony and that red R. Ferry Motorsport Ferrari over Michael Christensen. Morad was pushing hard there, but he doesn't seem to have anything left in that Mercedes to put more pressure on for the 4th position.
And for somebody to do something here, it's getting a little short on time here. You've got to make something happen. It happened in a hurry here. Watching, Hargrove had closed up to about 2 seconds back of Brad, and then for the last few laps, it's pretty much stabilized right at about 2 seconds.
Yeah, I think Morad may have been compromised a little bit in his ultimate pace by that Porsche right in front of him. He's kind of regrouping here, and he will try and surprise his ex-teammate from that 24-hour victory at Daytona last year. Will he try and make that move into turn 10 on the final lap of the race like he did for position on Mancinelli earlier today? He's got to get a lot closer if he's going to make that one happen.
There's Hargrove, who, remember, swept the opening rounds of the Sprint Championship at St. Pete in his first ever 2 starts after a big shunt that took the right front corner right off of that car. The crew just put it back together, and he had a little help in that first race with 3 cars going out in the opening corner, but just won it and came back. He has got some serious pace, but he's dropped off a little bit here, it looks like now.
He has, and but he's a confident young man, and I think that confidence was displayed there at St. Petersburg with the mistake that he made where it tore out the suspension, came back and swept the weekend. So talking to him early this weekend, he said, I love this racetrack. He said, I've probably run here 18 times and I've only been beaten 4 times, but he's going to add to that beaten tally here this weekend because he's going to go 2 races without seeing the top step of the podium, and this is not what he expected from this race weekend. He expected to extend that championship lead, Greg, and he's not doing it.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, on that lap now, he lost half a second, so the eyes did not deceive that margin had expanded. Everything right now, looking at Murad going after Christensen again.
Yeah, flashing these lights. He's doing everything he can to distract Michael Christensen. He's going to need more than that. He's got a pro right in front of him.
That he does. Porsche factory driver.
Super deep. He really takes it in there deep on the brakes into Moss. Oh, he's closer than ever.
Yeah.
Look at that Porsche out accelerating there, right there. Just gets the power down and then seems to cut up this straightaway a little bit quicker as well.
I wonder if Daniel backed off just a little bit there to get better air in the nose, let those fronts cool down a little bit to have something here for these last few minutes.
Yeah, it looked like he did that, Greg. You're correct. If you just drop a little bit further back, give the tires a little bit of a breather.
Farther back than he has been.
I saw him going there through turn 8. It wasn't like he was up to full speed there. Gap seems to extend it a little bit.
It looks like with the lap times they're running here, they're anticipating white flag next time by.
Twitch there, he's pushing hard. Up front, look at this man. Jumped at the start and hasn't looked back all day long, just managed this race perfectly, looking for his first victory on the year.
A fast lap of the race by a cool 0.4 of a second thereabouts. Although Tony Vielander has dipped down to the 1:17 flat range to Parent's 1:16.8. But he has just been masterful in controlling this one.
He really has, and we were scratching our heads at the performances of the Bentley and the K-Pax team in the early rounds. Just didn't seem to really find the sweet spot, and they said, we've got to get to the racetrack which suit this race car, and this was the first one on the agenda where they felt they'd be strong. Got stymied yesterday in the wet, but in these dry conditions, doing exactly what they expected to do.
Onto the front straight, white flag flies. Alvaro Parent in the Opticode Bentley from K-Pax Racing down into turn 1. And boy, you tell you, the guys on the wall have got to be a bit nervous right now. This is what they've been waiting for Alvaro, who's been with this team for so long, 2016 champ. And it's been such a rough season. And this last lap, boy, you get nervous.
You do, and it's been every win is hard fought, but for this team it'll be hard fought and well earned as we see the team waiting for their 2 cars just to complete this final lap here, because they have really been burning the midnight oil to get these cars fixed. A lot of crash damage this season.
Did you see all the hands that were tapping on the wall of nervous energy there? They are excited. Oh man, they're looking, they're leaning. There's Darren and there's that group that have put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this season with some tremendous help from Bentley Motorsports. And here we go, up the Mario Andretti straightaway. This team could be heading toward a 1-2, and Alvaro Parent to his first win. That's just, you'd be stunned with that, and to say it was this deep in the season that he wouldn't have won yet. And here he goes, Cal, into turn 9. 1 corner to go. Alvaro Parent feeds it into turn 8, picks the throttle up on the Continental GT3, heads to the wall, and the crew Bentley wins at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park and make it a 1-2. Rodrigo Baptista, a superb win in the GTA category. It has all come good for Bentley north of the border.
Wow, great job by that team. It has been a big month for that team to regroup, rebuild another car up for this weekend. And Alvaro Parent gives them the top step of the podium. Baptista second overall and winning in the AM division as well.
Well, now you get to do the side-by-side victory lap with a sweep of both classes. That's a magic moment for Bentley and K-Pax, and we'll come back to hear from our class winners in just a bit. So with us here in the Global Web Stream, once again, thank you so much for joining us. When we come back, we're basically going to do the end of the CBS Sports Network show. So we want to thank you officially once again. Please tune in once again when we are at Lime Rock Park for the next couple of rounds of the Sprint X Championship with the multiple driver hour format. We certainly hope you do that, and it's been great having you with us here for this one. Thank you so much. And as we watch this here, boy, I think I just saw Alvaro Parent do a burnout for the crowd down and leaving turn 5, just lighting the rears up. I think he's going to soak in this moment.
He's going to be a happy boy, and let's not forget that first round of the championship. He had an incident in round 1 and then had that massive failure. Really hurt his ribs that day, was lucky to escape without further injury. So this has been a tough season in more ways than one for Alvaro Parent.
It has, and there you can see the fans, the marshals, everybody helping celebrate. We're going to say, there he goes again. He's just lighting it up a little bit, switching off TC and reveling in the moment as they head into pit lane. We're going to pause. We'll be back with our CBS Sports Network show. Once again, thanks to everybody out there on our global web feed for joining us. North America's Bentley boys bring these 2 beautiful Continental GT3s into the pit lane. The winner happens to be for Portugal and the other one from Brazil, but they're the Bentley boys here in this series. And for this man, Alvaro Parent, just an absolutely fantastic day.
It really was just superb, exactly what you'd expect him to do when he has the dominant car. He takes it to victory.
He is at that level of competition. That isn't a misstep for him. He won't miss that opportunity. Gets out, he's going to get congratulations from the crew, And there's Pilar waiting for him, so he'll get that helmet and Hans' device off and be ready to chat. You can see the rest of the field coming in. And I think Alvaro is just kind of going to take his time and revel in the moment here. Cameras flashing, and well-deserved indeed. And nice moment there between he and his young teammate, Baptista, who did an equally, I think, stellar job today, exactly what he needed to do here to make this happen. And just a great story. And Vilander second, Christensen third. We'll talk more about that as well. But this is all about Alvaro Parent in this moment. And that helmet about to come off, and we're going to throw it down to Pilar, who is just watching the celebrations unfold down there. And Parent, the balaclava is off.
I mean, I don't think people could be happier for Alvaro right now. I mean, it's almost like about time. Alvaro, you've had a rough season. Your car just came in from Malaysia. I mean, was this win just redemption for you?
Look, yeah, it's for sure been a really tough season, and all the bad luck. The guys had to rebuild the car twice, and yesterday it was raining, and we were like very confident on the dry condition, like you guys saw. So even that didn't help yesterday, the rain. But finally, we had a good race. A big congratulations, and dedicate this one to my team, to the team, to the boys, my crew. Steve Conover, my engineer, the guys working on the car that have been flat out, basically rebuilding, 3 cars. So it's been really, really tough.
Congratulations. Thank you so much.
You can hear that emotion there a little bit. This one, I think, means a tremendous amount to this guy. He's fought for it so hard. And I think, too, Cal, when you do it at a track like this, there's that deep meaning of this is a true driver's track, and I pulled it off.
This is a special place, and I think the only thing he did slowly today was take his helmet off. So,
yeah, exactly.
Other than that, he was the man to beat.
Now, there's Tony Vilander sitting in second. That's a big story in terms of points. Christensen completes the podium. Daniel Morad and Scott Hargrove, a little bit of a surprise maybe to see the Canadian connection sitting there fourth and fifth. And Daniel Mancinelli was running in front of those guys. Then Morad put that great move on him, and he slipped back into the 6th spot. So that's the podium and the field there in the GT Pro category for the sprint division. And we continue to look here at the track. We're going to get back down now to Pilar, who's standing by with our GTSA winner.
I mean, it's been a phenomenal day for K-Pax. We've got Rodrigo Bautista. Congratulations on a great win. You guys took some risks yesterday in the rain, and it paid off for you guys in the podium position. Let's talk about your strategy today.
Yeah, I think we won the race yesterday because we don't have a good car in the rain, and we decided to put dry tires, so we did the right thing, and yeah, we just won the race yesterday.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I think he's just enjoying this moment as well, and boy, what a year he is having. An overall win in Sprint X, and now a second place finish overall with a win in GTA A. And there you can take a look at it. Fuentes and Parker Chase had a great battle throughout that race, but in the end, Fuentes was able to open the margin up a little bit over the 17-year-old. Still, though, an impressive weekend for Parker Chase.
Big weekend for Parker. Yuki really struggled with that Lamborghini around this racetrack, just could never get comfortable. And we know the boy is fast, and he's really enjoying this season, just couldn't get the setup right.
Absolutely. And let's take a look now. Our hard charger, the VP Racing Fuels hard charger, goes to Daniel Morad. And you always know it's been an intense, close race when the hard charger is up one position. That's how fierce the battling was here. So congratulations to Daniel Morad. Let's take a look at our points here. And in the GT category, obviously you take a look at what unfolded there. Tony Vilander made up some ground, and that's big going into that Sprint X weekend. He's also thinking the overall points. It's a big weekend.
It really was. Big mover here today, and Hargrove's not going to be happy by falling behind Vilander and Morad in the race here today and losing points effectively to those two who are chasing him hard in the championship. So there's a long way to go. We've got a doubleheader next weekend, Sprint X format on a bull ring of a racetrack as well.
It's going to be amazing. And in the GT, the Sprint A category, obviously, Baptista, as you said, great stuff. So looking forward to Lime Rock, the bull ring. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure and join us there if you can. That wraps things up. From Canadian Tire Motorsport Park, for Calvin Pillar and our entire CBS Sports Network crew, I'm Greg Creamer. In association with WC Vision, this has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, the 24-hour home of CBS Sports.